This is Creative Colorful People Radio, where it's all about the arts, the artists, and the art of living well. Now, being an African-American male and of a little age,
and a little height,
I've had, should I say, the misfortune, or as some folks would say, that bad moment in life to be pulled over by the authorities, depending what place I was. Sometimes, the state patrol, sometimes the highway patrol, sometimes the city police, not doing anything wrong.
Guilty of driving while black, or
guilty while driving while black,
or fitting the description, perhaps.
Yes. And I think probably the worst scenario was standing on a street corner waiting to go to work first thing in the morning, because I was working the first shift at a place and had to be there at 5 o'clock. I was riding with another people, carpool, because it was a city. I got picked up, detained, arrested. Wouldn't nobody tell me why.
Just
had to go see a judge.
Sit.
And if it wasn't for the intelligence of the judge, I probably would have spent the rest of the day in jail, because nobody wanted to listen to me. I kept asking, why am I here? Nobody wanted to say. The judge, after looking at the file, realized, well, this 6'1", 180-pound man cannot be 5'5" and weigh 280 pounds 3 weeks ago.
So you really did not fit the description.
I didn't fit the description, other than being an African-American male.
Which is pretty much all it needed, I guess, huh?
Yes, I guess. So.
And when was that? A few years ago?
That was, I'd say, at least 15 years ago.
Well, you know what?
Things haven't changed much, have they not?
Not much at all. I was surfing through the internet, and I kept seeing this name of this guy. It's like Charles Belk. I know a Charles Belk.
You know Charles Belk?
It couldn't be my Charles Belk.
Really?
And then, lo and behold, it was the Charles Belk from Durham, Hillside alum, who got kind of in a situation. And so we found him. We wanted to know firsthand. Charles Belk, first of all, welcome to the Creative Colorful People Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure
Oh, man,
thing.
you're more than welcome.
And we've been trying to tell people your story, but we figured the best thing to do would be to let you tell us what happened to you that couple of weeks back out in Beverly Hills.
Man, I was walking down the sidewalk, just left the restaurant, getting ready to go get dressed. In a few minutes, we're going to get dressed to go to some MP parties. And so I was trying to put some money in my meter because I was running a little behind. And all of a sudden, I got pulled. I got asked to come over to the curb, give my ID, and then sit on the curb. Then the next thing I know, I was handcuffed, sat out on the curb for about 45 minutes in the sun on a very busy street and one of the busiest weekends for my industry. And then got hauled off to the Beverly Hills police station. I got fingerprinted, photographed, never read my rights, denied being allowed to make a telephone call, told by the booking officer that this is a very serious crime that you have committed, held in a prison cell for several hours. And then at the end of the evening, once I was the FBI and the detectives came and spoke with me, I found out they hadn't even reviewed the videotape that's at every bank in every town that you go to. And this was a big bank on the corner in Beverly Hills. So they had all sorts of surveillance.
Right.
You can imagine Beverly Hills.
Right.
And they hadn't even reviewed the videotape. I pleaded with them to do that. Then I went and talked to my lawyer next door finally, and within 5 minutes, literally within 5 minutes, he walked in, pulled my attorney out, and said, "We reviewed the video. It's not your client. He's free to go."
And how long? We're talking hours, this ordeal.
Yeah, absolutely. From the time I was stopped on the curb, so from that moment that you see in that iconic picture that is now circulated, the internet, it is from that moment to the moment I first left the Beverly Hills police station. It was a little over 6 hours, and I say first left because they released me, did not tell me they had impounded my car, and oh, by the way, it was in the garage right where I was located, and I went back to my car about 3 miles away. It wasn't there, so I had to come back to the police station to get my car.
What a nightmare! Oh my goodness! Yeah. And I mean, what did anyone apologize or I mean, there's no apology for 6 hours of your life.
Yeah, interesting enough, the detective and the two FBI agents came in when I was, getting ready to get released, and they was like, "Hey, we wanted to offer you our apologies." And they gave me a piece of paper, and it was a detention certificate, and they clearly looked at me in the face and pointed out and said, "Hey, we just want you to know that this was only a detention. We only detained you. It was not an arrest." And so I'm thinking to myself, but wait a minute, you fingerprinted me, you photographed me, you took all of my personal effects from me, you gave me a blanket and toiletries and little slippers and these little foam shoes and put me in a cold cell. Right?
Gosh.
Clearly, this was a arrest. But I just wanted to get out of there. I just wanted to get out of there, so I didn't really question it. And it wasn't until a week and a half later that we're reviewing everything, and someone pulled up and showed me on the Los Angeles County Sheriff's site an arrest record for me. And and after they had told me that I was not arrested, there was an arrest record out on the internet for me.
Whoa.
So,
whoa.
Yeah.
That is just deep on so many levels.
Now, like we were saying offline, we were talking about what happens to you after these things all happen, and young men, older men, anyone who actually ends up in this situation, and they've gotten what would be considered arrested. Because now, if it's in the, like you said, if it made the blotter stating that you were arrested, then you were arrested. The detention paper probably something they want you to go home and frame.
It's obviously not much value.
Yeah, what do you do, or is there something you can do after that fact? Because isn't that like on your record?
Yes, it absolutely is on your record. And a lot of people do not know that. And thanks for asking that question, Karl. A lot of people don't know that. And so for me, because I started a campaign and the Beverly Hills Police Department got flooded due to social media outreach. And so when I finally met with them last week, they had completed, in California, and it's different for all states. It's different from North Carolina, but in California they have this particular form called a petition to seal and destroy adult arrest records. And you have to, typically you have to hire a lawyer. It can cost up to $5,000 and take up to 6 months for that process to take place. And then there's several things in there that either the arresting agency or the LA Sheriff's Department, for example, in California, can deny it. And you have to actually take it to a judge and prove your case. Mine was pretty clear cut because, one, I had this detention certificate, and two, I was in jail that night and never went to trial or any of that kind of stuff, and no charges filed. But mine was pretty clear cut. But for a lot of people, they think that just because they were released, they don't even know that they still have this arrest record, and it can affect them for the rest of their life with jobs, loans, all sorts of things. And so we have started a petition at change.org that you can, and we encourage all your listeners to please go and sign it, because it's addressed to the U.S. Attorney General and all 50 state Attorney Generals that require local, state, and federal agencies to automatically delete any arrest records for individuals that were actually innocent and wrongfully arrested. And that's a really big deal because, one, it's not something that's in place right now, and two, a lot of folks don't even know that they have an arrest record. So the mere fact that I'm talking to you guys and getting the word out so people know that is one thing. If we can move this petition forward and get some legislation written and some new laws written, it would be great.
And people, like you say, just think, oh, well, I'm done with this. I didn't get arrested. I didn't get found guilty or whatever. So that's a done deal. And they just go on with life, maybe with a certificate, say that they're okay or not, when in fact you're saying that nobody has this in place. What you think would automatically happen is not mandated anywhere.
They're sitting at home right now, just kind of chilling to WCOM, listening to a little jazz. They don't even know they have this arrest record out there that's probably been affecting their lives.
You wonder why they can't get a job, or why they got turned down for the loan, or what's happening. I don't have a record. When did a criminal background check, it came back clean. You assume, because when you don't get approved for something, they don't tell you why. You don't know
Yeah.
that things like this are still sitting out there. So that change is change that really needs to be in place for everyone.
I can honestly say.
Everyone.
Yep.
And it goes way back. I mean, think about it. Think about a college experience you might have had where you might have been at a fraternity party or something, and they just came by and grabbed a couple people for disturbance and stuff, took you down to the station, processed you, but let you go. Well, once you was processed in any way, shape, or form, there is an arrest record for you in the system.
Yep. Yep. Like I said, I found out while living in Charlotte, and this was a good 15 years after that incident I spoke of
in
happened.
Philadelphia,
And in Philadelphia, and I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I applied for a gun permit. And
that's when you found out
that they had the newest technology. You put your hand down on a little screen, and it like a scanner, and it scans your hand. Well, it scanned, and everybody in the room turned around and looked at me like I'd done something. I looked up like I didn't do anything. And a woman walked over and asked me, "Honey, how tall are you?" And we went through the exact same thing that we did in Philadelphia.
From that street corner.
From that street corner.
And you thought it was all done.
And then they told me, it's on your record.
Wow.
That you committed this crime. He said, but it's really confusing because it states that you're not the person in the record. But I still have it in my record. So every time somebody looks, they'll see that.
That's amazing.
And when I asked about getting it off, they told me you got to get a lawyer.
Just what Charles has gone through. Wow.
You know,
yeah,
so.
And it's sad that you have to go through that process. And no innocent American should have to go through that process.
Right.
And here's even a bigger deal. So even though my record has now been expunged and is no longer in the local system, there is the reason why I'm really amped about this petition is because even for me, for example, my record's been deleted. You can't find it anymore, but it still apparently resides in some federal database. And that's one of the things that was petitioned, that it gets erased for all databases anywhere. And not to mention the fact, but current law in most states require that even if you have been completely deleted from the system, and you can legally say on most applications that you've never been arrested unless you are applying for a gun permit, unless you're applying for a job working around children, unless you're applying for a job teaching, unless you're applying for a job with the law enforcement, or applying for a professional license, like if you want to sit for the bar or something. All of those circumstances, you still have to let them know that you were once arrested, even though you're completely exonerated.
That is just the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, really.
Yeah, bad gift.
So tell us again, Charles, where people can go to be a part of the change.
So all you have to do is, it's a site called change.org, which houses all of these great petitions. That's change.org, and then search on my name, Charles Belk, and it automatically comes up. Or I'm sure that you guys probably wouldn't mind. I'm going to tweet you, and then if you could retweet it, people can see the link from there. Or if they want to just go to my Facebook page, of course it's there, and that's Charles Belk.
Well, for sure, we will do that and continue to, because change sometimes takes more than a conversation. Sometimes it takes a while, and this is something that affects everybody, whether they know it or not. It goes over all demographic boundaries. Everybody needs to be concerned about this. So I hate you went through it, but like the old folks say, son, stuff happens for a reason sometimes.
It definitely does. And the interesting thing about what you just said about folks being educated, one of the things that, I accept the fact that today is the day, and things ain't going to change overnight. But what we can do is change things for the future. And that's why I Skyped in recently to a class at North Carolina Central University, an ethics class. And because those are the minds that you got to start affecting. Those are our future law enforcement agencies, our future policymakers. Those are the folks that you got to affect.
And those are the folks who haven't lived enough life in some cases to have these things personally affect them. It's just like, oh, that's not me. That's everybody else. Young people think they're invincible, when in fact this big monkey can get on your back and it'll be over, and your whole life and lifetime of opportunities be changed. So you're right. We'll be talking to the older people, the younger people. We'll even talk to the little babies.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, they might be young, but even at my age, and I won't say that because then I will be telling your age.
I'm good. I'm good.
But even at my age, I'm walking down the street thinking this would never happen to me. I mean, I've been stopped and stuff before, but in every case, they've always figured it out really quickly. So, you know, you never know what's going to happen to you on a given day.
You got that right.
Well, and I hate to miss those Emmy parties, but it's another party going on there. We're going to change some things. We're going to change some things.
Better luck next time.
He's a comedian, Weisenheimer.
Charles Belk, thank you so very much, man. You can drop by anytime you'd like.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it. And good talking to you, Valerie.
Likewise, Charles.
Y'all have a beautiful day, man.
Go Hornets.
Exactly.
That's Charles Belk out in L.A. Hollywood. You know, it can happen to anybody, like you said. So take notice, and
we'll be telling you more about it.